Today, you're going to do an activity that has to do with the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Now, this story can be heard as a read aloud if you click on that book right there. But I'm going to read it to you also so you can hear it a couple of different ways. So it's Red Riding Hood. It's retold and illustrated by James Marshall. And retold means that this story has been heard again and again and again, and he retold it in his own way. A long time ago, in a simple cottage, besides the deep dark woods, there lived a pretty child called Red Riding Hood. She was kind and considerate, and everybody loved her. One afternoon, Red Riding Hood's mother called to her, "Granny isn't feeling up to snuff today, so I've baked her favorite custard as a little surprise. Be a good girl and take it to her, will you?" Red Riding Hood was delighted. She loved going to Granny's, even though it meant crossing the deep, dark woods. So Granny is another name for Grandma. When the custard had cooled, Red Riding Hood's mother wrapped it up and put it in a basket. "Now, whatever you do," she said, "go straight to Granny's. Do not tarry, do not speak to any strangers." "Yes, Mama," said Red Riding Hood. And do not tarry means don't dilly-daddle and not know where to go. Head straight there. Before long, she was in the deepest part of the woods. "Ooh," she said, "this is scary." I just saw that. Did you see the wolf? Uh-oh. Suddenly, a large wolf appeared. "Good afternoon, my dear," he said. "Care to stop for a little chat?" "Oh, gracious me," said Red Riding Hood. "Mama said not to speak to any strangers." But the wolf had such charming manners. "And where are you going, sweet thing?" he said. "I'm on my way to visit Granny, who lives in the pretty yellow house on the other side of the woods," said Red Riding Hood. "She's feeling poorly, and I'm taking her a surprise." "You don't say," said the wolf. Just then he had a delightful idea. "No reason why I can't eat them both," he thought. "Allow me to escort you," he said. "You never know what might be lurking about." "You're too kind," said Red Riding Hood. So Little Red Riding Hood thinks he's being nice, but he's not. He's being sneaky. Beyond the forest, they came to a patch of sunflowers. "Why not pick a few?" suggested the wolf. "Grannies love flowers, you know." But while Red Riding Hood was picking a pretty bouquet, the clever wolf hurried on ahead to Granny's house. "Who is it?" called out Granny. "It is I, your delicious, darling granddaughter," said the wolf. "The door is unlocked," said Granny. "Surprise!" cried the wolf, and Granny was furious at having her reading interrupted. "Get out of here, you horrid thing," she called. But the wolf gobbled her right up. He didn't even bother to chew. "Tasty," he said, patting his belly. "So tasty." Just then he heard footsteps on the garden path. "Here comes dessert!" And losing no time, he put on Granny's cap and glasses, jumped into bed, and pulled up the covers. "Who is it?" he called out in his sweetest Granny voice. "It is I, your little granddaughter," said Red Riding Hood. "The door is unlocked," said the wolf. Red Riding Hood was distressed at seeing her grandmother so changed. "Why, Granny," she said, "what big eyes you have! The better to see you with, my dear. And Granny, what long arms you have! The better to hug you with, my dear. And Granny, What big teeth you have. The better to eat you, my dear, cried the wolf. And he gobbled her right up. I'm so wicked, he said, so wicked. And he really was, enormously pleased with himself. And after enjoying such a heavy meal, he was soon snoring away. And a hunter passed by and was alarmed by the frightened racket. That doesn't sound like Granny, he said. And so the brave hunter jumped in the window, killed the sleeping wolf, and opened him up. And out jumped Granny, and out jumped Little Red Riding Hood. We're ever so grateful, said Red Riding Hood. That wicked wolf won't trouble you again, said the hunter. It was so dark in there I couldn't read a word, said Granny. Red Riding Hood promised never, ever to speak to another charming stranger, whether they had manners or not. And she never did. Isn't that a great story? So you can watch this video again if you would like. You can also click right here and listen to the story again, and it's going to help you do your activity about who's in the story and who's not in the story. Have fun.